And welcome to a Thursday night edition of the Buddy Martin Show, Orange and Blue Blood Thursday. I am Buddy Martin. On the program tonight, we'll have our usual cast of characters minus one. Ben Troupe will be along shortly to give us his thoughts on homecoming and the 84 team being celebrated. Also, tonight, we'll have our legendary veteran writer, Franz, who actually covered the 84 team, can tell us a lot about that. He'll be joining us, and then we'll be in place of Lauren Meadows, although Lauren may join us later. We're going to have our friend Rob Browne from Sideline, SEC Sideline. So it's going to be a good show. I know you got a good baseball game tonight, but come along and join us. Let's talk a little ball. The question being, how long do you support a coach that's losing? Well, you know what that's about. So we'll be here for the next hour, and the floor is yours.
For Buddy Martin, call him up and tell him what you're thinking, but be kind because he's doing the best he can.
Better, stronger, faster.
Mama says that alligators are ornery because they got all them teeth but no toothbrush.
Hey, what if the voice calls while you're gone?
Take a message.
Bye.
You ready, champ?
I'm ready for this my whole life.
I'm incapable of small talk. But that's why you love me, right?
Kind of intimidating to be in the presence of so many great athletes.
Good evening, good evening. Watching this baseball game. Boy, it's like the game. Yankees were up by 2 in the bottom of the ninth, and after a pair of back-to-back home runs, and then lo and behold, a 2-run homer by the rookie from Cleveland. It's 5-all at the end of 9. So I know you're watching. Some of you are watching that. So if you are, update us. We can't watch it. Good evening to you out there, folks. Thanks for joining the program tonight. And first one in tonight's Tommy Seal. Tommy Seal, good evening. Go Gators beat Kentucky. Yeah, it's that time again. And can they beat Kentucky? They're underdogs. I think 15 points is the last I heard. If you hear any other lines, put them in there. And then we'll see where it goes from there. Of course, this is the first game this year without a quarterback who led his team from oblivion, and who'll ever forget what he did. We'll be talking more about that situation tonight and whether or not the young rookie coming in can get the job done. I think he can, but boy, it's a little different now that Mertz is gone, and Lagway's got the thing all to himself and no backup. So will it affect his play? I don't know. What do you think? Give us your thoughts here online. We always love hearing from you. Let's go right to the Orange and Blue Room and talk to the master himself. I know he's probably wishing his Braves were in the we're in the division series, but not so much this year, nor are my Rays. Good evening to you, Ben.
Wait, now, buddy, I'm trying to have a good night, and you got to mention my and listen, they ain't far away, but but that's neither here nor there. But I think you just made a great point when you're talking about DJ Lagway, and now he don't have to worry about looking over his shoulder. And I have a little experience, with this, with Chris Leak, and it's one thing to know you're gonna be the guy, right? It's another thing, buddy, when your circumstance has completely changed, and now it's DJ Lagway's time. It's his time, and he's ready, and he's ready because he's played meaningful snaps in meaningful games, big time competition. But the offense is going to look different because he wants to push the ball down the field. He definitely wants to show off that arm. And unfortunately for Gator Nation, we're going to have to live with some rookie mistakes. Mm-hmm. We're going to have to live with some because he's going to make some. But I got to say this, though. To Graham Mertz, I feel horrible for him. But, buddy,
Yeah, I
He
agree.
has been such a bright spot since he got on campus. This time last year, when he transferred, everybody was thinking, "Oh, is the stage going to be too big? Is the competition going to be too much?" And he's been a bright spot the entire time. And I think the greatest thing Graham Mertz did, he's a great teammate. Was ready to mentor DJ Lagway. Never ever looked to transfer. Never ever talk bad about his offensive line. Never ever talk bad about Coach Napier and the play calling. Just went out there and played. Was blessed enough to speak to him in the offseason when he did decide to come back. And I think for Gator Nation is we have grown so accustomed to a lot of negativity from who's going to be the OC to who's going to call, how the defense going to look to who's going to be the playmakers on offense to who, and Graham Mertz was just, he's always been like a consummate, like, the way he went about his business was top notch. Gator standard, through and through. And even when he's he's played his last snap as a Florida Gator, still went out with grace, still supporting his teammates, still letting DJ Lagway know, look, man, I'm here for you. And what people be thinking, where have we seen this before? And even though it's not the same thing, Felipe Franks, and Kyle Trask. Kyle, obviously Felipe was the guy. I mean, he got hurt during the game. Kyle Trask comes in. Felipe showed how great of a teammate he was. Still went out there and, threw the ball around with the teammates and still was interacting with the fans. So I'm just gonna miss Graham Mertz because I think sometimes, buddy, we get a chance to meet, experienced young men who are great young men who just happen to wear orange and blue. And like I said, I just, you hate to see it end because you want to know what he could have done with the rest of this season because he was kind of showing a lot more promise and more comfortability within the offense. In spite of the play calling. But I am looking forward to seeing DJ. And, buddy, I'm going to say this. You kept calling this now. Now, I'm not saying you was calling it this early. But when DJ Lagway came in, no matter what you said, look, man, this young man, I'm looking forward to seeing him get out there. You knew he was going to play some this season. Mm-hmm. Now, Kentucky is not going to be no pushover. This is the same Kentucky team that could have beaten Georgia, should have beaten Georgia. But Kentucky is coming off, a loss against, Vanderbilt and things of that nature. But I think for DJ Lagway, if I'm in his ear, I'm telling him the same thing. I think he's 19. Chris Leak was 18. I'm telling him the same thing I told Chris Leak. I'm saying, hey, man, you know what I want you to do? He was like, well, I want you to be yourself. See, you get all this stuff in your ear, buddy. You got to do this. You got to do that. Listen, with all the positions in football, nothing is more important than that QB position. And DJ Lagway, he's built for this moment. He's built for, these bright lights. And like I say, coming in against Miami, was able to show some spark, even though the game was over. Got through the game, through the touchdown that tied the game against Tennessee. When he started, it looked lights out. But when his start, it wasn't against the same similar competition. But I think, buddy, Billy Napier, which I know he's already in the news about being the most overpaid. Which, I'm not saying that the people are correct, but they ain't far off. He's definitely one of them. He ain't the only one. But when you talk about expectations or not meeting expectations of how much money he's making, yes. But
let me jump in there and say that you talked about something off the top about the positivity of Mertz. There's not a lot to go around right now, and I have a column up on Gatorbait talking about my own negativity. You've always been able to manage it pretty well. You're kind of an upbeat guy. You'll criticize when warranted, but I presented this case scenario, and the title of the show is "How long do you stay with a losing coach?" And the column I wrote, well, you know what? Let's look inside what we got here. After I saw a couple of pieces that were written and talked to a couple of friends of mine, I said, well, maybe I was too negative. It's not my job to coach the team or inspire the team, but I want to be fair. So I just took a step back and said, okay, As I said, okay, this is what it is, and I asked a couple of friends of mine, Freddie and Randy Briggs, to give me their spin without telling them mine. They both had interesting takes, which is in the column about what they thought. One thought Billy should stay, but not as head coach. The other one said, I want to go with him the rest of this year and see what happens. But I think the thing is about the positivity, it's really hard in the face of what's going on there, to continue to be positive. And how much can you expect to squeeze out of a fan when he's not seeing the wins, especially in a game like Tennessee where it was served to you on a platter and you couldn't take it. But I'm going to remain somewhat positive. This would do a lot. This wouldn't resolve the issues, but beating Kentucky would mean a lot. They're 2-point underdogs to Kentucky. I think they'd be even if it wasn't to the injury from Mertz, in my opinion. That's what I think. But so then having said that, you mentioned also the proper credit for people who done things. And I want to go back to the 84 team who's being recognized this weekend. Franz will be along later. He covered that team. I was not living here at the time. But I heard from those guys. They did a lot of great things. Never got a chance to show it. They actually won a national championship, believe it or not. The New York Times, and it was taken away from them. And they won a conference championship, taken away from them. So, but even Napier said yesterday, they put Florida on the map in that regard. And you know the story of that. So, anyway, so it's a good week, homecoming weekend. It's a good time to maybe heal some wounds, get some of these guys in there who played in '84, show a little love. Galen Hall's going to be here, I read, too. So it'd be good to see that happen. And let's just roll it out there and see what happens and see what kind of player Lagway is, because this is going to be a big stepping stone for the young man to go out there without a backup. Mm-hmm. He's not a terribly physical player, but he's not afraid to take the ball. And the question is, would you encourage him to maybe back off of that, not do so many of the read options? I don't know. But this team needs anything it can get right now. And certainly a win over Kentucky would help a lot. Still don't see a pathway for Billy to be able to keep the job, but I could be wrong. I've been wrong before. And so I think the best case scenario is for him to stay right now until they don't have a good interim coach. And then by the time it gets to the end of the year, they'll be able to sort out his deal and hopefully identify one or two coaching prospects. I haven't heard a lot of talk about the Indiana coach, etc. I'm not seeing any evidence, although Lane losing 2 games could change the situation. So that's what we're going to talk about. So let's do this. Let's go ahead and do our commercial. And we've got Rob Browne standing by. We've got Franz Beard coming aboard. By the way, shout out to Franz, who's got 2 ill parents. He's been dealing with a lot of problems there, and he needs all the prayers, thoughts, and prayers for them as he deals with some tough issues. So appreciate him coming on tonight. And by the way, before I start, let me say, give me your latest on Napier, where you stand, what you think he should do, and should he be fired? Should he be kept? What should happen?
I think he should. I don't think he should be fired, buddy. And for this reason, the thing about Florida that everybody's talking about, well, just get rid of Billy. And what if Lane Kiffin says no? And I see everybody talking about the head coach from Indiana, even though he's great. He's a media darling right now. But the reason why Lane Kiffin would potentially say no is because they can see Ole Miss ain't Florida. Penn State ain't Florida. And these coaches know, hey, man, my coaching resume, no matter what I've done up to this point, you put it to the side because this is Florida. Now, whoever we get are going to demand top dollar. You're talking about $8-9 million a year coach, depending on what his resume is. But I think you keep Billy Napier as long as you can, because the longer you keep him, the more opportunity you get to go out there and see who's going to be. Because like we say, but it was, who will be the interim? You got some good candidates, right? But I think DJ Lagway.
I don't know that they do have any good candidates.
Coach Gonzalez, maybe. But that's the thing about the coaching roster. It's too many maybes on the coaching roster to say, okay, if Coach Billy Napier is replaced, who do we replace him with? I do think DJ Lagway gives him another, 2 or 3 games. because you want to see what DJ Lagway is going to do, how he's going to look. But I just think the thing about Florida, what makes it now, Lane Kiffin not meeting expectations in Ole Miss definitely makes him more attractive to potentially come to Florida if that does happen. And buddy, let me tell you something. All eyes going to be on Gainesville when Ole Miss come down here. Because Ole Miss, I don't know how many. If they still got 2 losses, I don't think Ole Miss is going to Atlanta this year. I just don't. And this was supposed to be the year.
Could, but didn't look that way. They lost the game.
But I think the thing that Billy Napier has on his side is a young quarterback, young stud who's going to be the future of the program. But I think DJ Lagway makes it more more possible to get the coach that you want now. Because
I had Shane Matthews, excuse me for interrupting you, and I were talking about this on Monday, and he said, "Well, buddy, you don't know who the coach coming in is, and if he won't DJ Lagway." I said, "If you don't want DJ Lagway, I don't want him."
You ain't lying. And let me tell you something. When people get to talking about, coaches in college want the same thing coaches in the NFL want. I want a quarterback. Why? Because if I got a quarterback, I got a good shot to win. You don't believe me? Mike McDaniel's the head coach of Miami. We don't know how good of a coach he is. Why? Because without Tua, he's very normal. With Tua, that offense is through the roof. DJ Lagway is a guy that I would think anybody would go, because he picked Florida. He had everybody wanting him. Yeah. Every single team wanted DJ Lagway. So I agree with you, buddy. If you don't want DJ Lagway, we don't want you. You can't call plays, and we don't want you wasting this young man's talent. Because, like I say, but I do think. But to answer your question, I do think we keep him for now. But buddy, with this gauntlet that's headed our way, Georgia, Tennessee, LSU, Ole Miss. Yeah, we gonna learn. We gonna see real quick, because while DJ Lagway is a good scapegoat because he's young, he can't save you. He will not save Billy Napier. So hey, man, but I do think it makes things less harder on Scott Strickland, because the jury is still out on Scott Strickland as to is he good enough to even get a coach? Right. The jury's still out on him as well. So we'll see.
Sure. We're going to go here in a minute and take a break, and we're going to come back. We're talking about the 84 Gators. And I know Rob is standing by too, but we're going to have, let's see. No, he's not here yet. That's Brendan. So we'll figure that out. But we're going to have, at some point, we're going to have Franz on to talk about this team. Let's take that break right now. And when I come back, I want you to say clearly what you favor in terms of the coaching change, when, who, and what. All right? Ben Troupe coming to you. 84 Reasons podcast. Check it out if you get a chance. All right. I wanted to be sure to tell you folks about our good friends at Meldon Law. They've been with us a long time. They do terrific things. They're the official law partner of the University of Florida. And they also have some great giveaways. If you don't know about it, go to their Facebook page and check them out. You can win some trips, you win tickets, and they're very generous with those things. So I encourage you, if you're interested in those, give a call or give a shot. And by the way, if you need law, you might want to consider that. I'm very happy in my case with the situation I came to a head, and I called Jeffrey, and he fixed me up, and I'm very pleased with the result we got so far on our case. And so he knows a lot of people. He knows the lawyers. If he doesn't want to take it himself and someone can do it better, he'll give you someone who's more of an expert in that field. So Meldon Law, he can carry our partners there. And so I encourage you to go see him. He's a guy that does a lot of great things for the University of Florida, and he bleeds orange and blue. So let's do this. I think Brendan's online. Are you there, Brendan? If not, okay. Ben, give me your official feelings about, we'll bring in Rob here too. Your official feelings about what you, there's Franz. Okay, there he is. All right, there's Rob too. All right, good. I guess this is what we're doing. Good to know. All right, guys, good evening to both of you.
Good evening.
Hey. Franz, this is your time, buddy. All the guys you covered back in the day are coming to town. There's going to be some kind of special ceremony. And I guess Mr. Two Bits will be John L. Williams, I understand. Yeah. And I know you're very happy about this team. being honored because you know him pretty well and you think it's long overdue.
Well, it is. That was the best team in America, period. And there was no question. There wasn't a team in the country that if they had played a game after December 1, there isn't a team in the country that could have stayed within 2 touchdowns of them. They beat Georgia like oh gosh, that was such a wonderful beatdown. And of course, Georgia responds by Vincent Dooley leading the pack to strip Florida of the SEC championship it won and preventing the Gators from winning it the next year. And then, of course, Vincent Dooley also led the pack, along with Tennessee, of course, both times, to make sure that Spurrier's 1990 team was ineligible to win the SEC championship. I have nothing but contempt for those two schools. And, far as I'm concerned, the greatest fantasy of mine is that somebody would get to either against Georgia or Tennessee and they score to make it 99-0. They go for 2 and then kick one side, throw a Hail Mary and get it on the last play. That would be that, yeah. I know other than that, fine.
I don't hear your revenge.
Though was special. It was an NFL team. You look at that offensive line and people say, well, they weren't very big. Well, they were big for the time, and trust me, they would have been equally big for this time.
Was that the Great Wall?
Yes, it was.
Who were those guys?
Lomas Browne.
Yeah.
Lomas Browne and Scott Trimble, Billy Henson, and Jeff Zimmerman at the guards, Phil Bromley at center, Crawford Kerr also. There was a 6-man rotation, and they just, oh gosh, the beatdown they gave Georgia that year, 27-3, was just, it was righteous. That was the game that Kerwin Bell throws to Ricky Nattiel for 94 yards, and that was following this unbelievable goal line stand. Georgia gets the ball to start the third quarter. They're down 17-0 at the half, and everybody is, all the Georgia people are smug. We've been down before, they all remember 4th and dumb when they were way down and they scored at the end of the half, then scored to start the third quarter. They get down to the Florida 3, 1st and goal, and they wound up 4th and goal, and they got stuffed at the 5. And on the next one play later, Kerwin throws to Ricky Nattiel down the sideline, the east sideline of the old Gator Bowl, and it was righteous. But right after that play, I have never seen Georgia fans leaving in droves like that, except for one other time, and that was when Urban beat him 49-10, and that was the infamous timeout game, 3 timeouts in the last 5 minutes and the last 2 minutes game. But
we had you to call it. So,
but it was an NFL team.
It was. A lot of those guys played a long time in the NFL.
Well, you look at the wide receivers. Ray McDonald plays in the NFL. Frankie Hayes, Ricky Nattiel plays in there. What was the other guy that they had? Gary Roll, who's Dr. Gary Roll now, plays in the NFL. Yeah. The defense, Alonzo Johnson, Tim Newton, etc.
Crawford Kerr had a great career.
Yeah, Crawford Kerr did. Jeff Zimmerman had a great career with the Cowboys.
Two really good offensive.
Lomas Browne.
3 greats. Those are 3 all-pro players right there.
Yeah, absolutely. And Lomas Browne, to every single day of the year, exudes what it's like to be a Gator. 3 running backs in the backfield. Lorenzo Hampton, Neil Anderson, John L. Williams, all 3 first-round draft picks. And Kerwin played like 15 years of pro football. He was an MVP of the Canadian League 2 or 3 times.
Yeah.
And ended up playing in some of the NFL too. So I was happy for him. The throw-in Mayoan, a walk-on from Mayo. And let me, I know it's early, but let me tell one quick story that's so funny. Charlie Pell, in the first game, they were going to play Miami. Kerwin has become the starting quarterback because Dale Dormany tore up his knee in practice. And so here we are going into the game against Miami, last year's national champion, with a freshman quarterback from Mayo, Florida, in there. So Kerwin and so Charlie, to calm him down, puts him in a room with Neil Anderson. And Neil Anderson, there is nothing that phases Neil Anderson. Neil Anderson could have been in the eye of the last hurricane, and it would have been nothing to him. I mean, that's just how calm he is about everything. They got the TV on there. It's a night game down in Tampa. They're watching football in the afternoon, and Neil puts the clicker to the TV under a pillow, and they're watching the game, and all of a sudden, click, goes to a new channel. Kerwin says, "What the heck?" And he gets up and turns it back to the other channel. Comes back, sits down. Click. Kerwin gets up there. "Neil, what's going on with this TV?" Turns it back. This happens 5 times. And finally, on the 6th time, Neil just finally breaks up. And Kerwin says, he holds it up and says, "We're changing it with this." And Kerwin, it was almost like Gomer Pyle. Shazam! he's like, "You big city boys, you know all the tricks." Well, Neil Anderson is from Graceville, which is, Mayo may have population of 800. Graceville may have 1,200. Yep. But Kerwin called him a big city boy.
Yeah. Hey, by the way, a little baseball note: Cleveland got a home run and won in extra innings over the Yankees. David Fry's 10th inning home run. What a game. They had a lot of home runs there. So game 3, they goes to the Cleveland Guardians. Hard to say as it is. Rob, good evening to you, buddy. Don't go to sleep on me.
And I'm not. I'm actually just remembering. I remember that '84 Florida team. They were as good as y'all were talking about. I mean, they beat Georgia 27-0, beat Auburn 24-3, tied LSU and lost to Miami in that damn early game. But in '85, they got back to number 1. Remember the day Iowa lost that big game in the Big Ten, and I remember they were playing Auburn, and Ricky Nattiel, like in '85 and '86, made crucial catches in the corner of the end zone. He was great at catching the fade route. And in '86, Kerwin Bell was injured, I think in the LSU game, wasn't he, guys? And they said, his knee was injured. And I said, "I'll guarantee you a sack full of crystals. That guy will be out there on one leg when they play Auburn." And y'all remember that Auburn game in '86? Yeah. Auburn's up like 17-0 or 17-3 and loses 18-17.
Yep.
And Pat Dye, after the '84 Iron Bowl, when Robert McGinney from Jupiter Beach, Florida, the walk-on kicker that wore those birth control glasses, he cut him from the team. He sat out in '85, came back to Florida in '86, and kicked the winning points to beat Auburn 18-17 in '86. I was at that game. That '84, really '83, '84, '85, '86 is about as good a run in Florida football history as there's ever been, with the exception of Steve Spurrier and Urban Meyer. That's the greatest run I've ever seen. Yeah, I remember every one of those teams really well.
Yeah, and by the way, they didn't win a game in '79, so it tells you what you can do. By the way, Ben, did you know some of those guys? It was a little before your time. And what was the reputation of those guys when you came to Florida, Ben?
I got a chance to obviously Kerwin Bell. When he used to be the head coach of Valdosta State, we used to have to cover him a lot, and we was always talking about how great of a player he was at Florida. Really, really modest. I got a chance to interview Lomas Browne, 5 or 6 times, on my radio show. And the thing about Lomas Browne is, I remember watching Lomas Browne, man, when he was with Detroit. I remember when Lomas Browne got to finally played 18 years, finally got to play in the Super Bowl his last year in 2002 with the Bucks. And when you come through Florida and you want to play offensive line in Florida, if you don't know who Lomas Browne is, they don't even let you practice. Like, you don't know who Lomas Browne is, and there are good players. Lomas Browne was a great player, great human being, obviously. But when you talk about a guy like Kerwin Bell, I mean, SEC Player of the Year, and I think the thing about that '84 team, when people start talking about legacies in Florida, that's where them legacies got started at. You had that many players, contributing on both sides of the ball, and I almost had a chance to have a sit down with Kerwin Bell. I mean, we couldn't get it worked out. But I remember when Kerwin Bell was in talks of being an OC at Florida. I don't know what happened. But she was like, bring Kerwin Bell back, bring it back. And obviously, we had some time when we could have used Kerwin Bell. When you talk about the Muschamp era, when you talk about the McElwain era, I mean, he couldn't have did anything worse than what was going on here. But I think I saw what Chris Doring was talking about it, on his on X. He was like,
he said that was his hero.
He said that's what really showed him what playing in Florida is. But I think too, that '84 team, it's almost they're so good to where that's how good you could be, but they're almost like not even real, because they had players everywhere. So when you think about Coach Spurrier and what he did when he was here, he wanted to make his teams look like that. Probably didn't play like that, but I want him to look like I want to have an SEC Player of the Year candidate at the quarterback position. I want to have bookend tackles. I want to have listen. When I was at Florida, our running backs were Ernest Graham, Robert Gillespie. You talk about Cedric Faison, Deshaun Wynn. Our tackles, Mike Peterson. Then you start talking about Max Starks. You start talking about the quarterback position. Rex. And then you start talking about Chris Leak and so on and so forth. So if you don't think that the best teams ever come through a school, you ain't trying to emulate that. Because if I could get the team, I probably can get the success. Now it usually don't go that way, but shout out to those '84 Gators, man, because I think sometimes when you start, it's hard to be the first. It really, really is, and that's where the legacy did get started. And like I say, Kerwin Bell, every time when he was at Valdosta State, they run that wide open offense. And they used to ask them, just jokingly, man, how do you know how to pick quarterbacks? I think I got an eye for him. I think I know what a quarterback looks like and how he should deliver the football. But I'm happy for him, because I think that no matter what any player says, you want to be remembered for your time at your school. You just do, whether you want a championship or you want it to be a team thing, not an individual thing. While it's great to go into the Florida Athletic Hall of Fame, it's nothing like saying, when I take my kids, I took my daughter, at Florida, we see the 2000 SEC champion. And I'm like, she said, Daddy, that's you. I'm like, yeah. Daddy's only sweating because I was celebrating. I didn't really get on the field that day, but I am in the picture. So my claim to fame is, I won the SEC championship, Coach Spurrier's last one. But you want your team to be remembered for their contribution to what Florida is. But
legacy, sure.
But listen, Urban Meyer, Coach Spurrier, I don't care who you are. Without the '84 Gators, I don't know what the legacy would have been, because Coach Spurrier coming in saying, all right, I know what the barometer is. As a player, I did it. Now I know as a coach what it looks like. And like I said, Lomas Browne is about as humble as it comes. I mean, when you talk to him, but incredible football player. I mean, that's when Florida was pulling all the players from Miami. That's what they were just pulling them from South Florida. But shout out to him.
By the way, I gotta say something, and Rob can vouch for this too. In the 1983 Florida-Auburn game, 57 guys on the field during that game who played at least 1 year in the National Football League.
Yep.
57 of them, a record that has never been broken. Nobody's even come close to that.
Yeah.
I was just now scanning the 83 team. On defense, Tony Lilly, Bruce Vaughn, Randy Clark, Wilbur Marshall, Vito McKeever, Ricky Eastman, Mark Korf, Patrick Miller, Roger Sibbald. That's just on defense. They all played in the National Football League. Offense, Neil Anderson, Lorenzo Hampton, John L. Williams, Wayne Peace, Ray Criswell, Dwayne Dixon, Broughton Lang, Ricky Natil, Gary Roll, Ray McDonald, Frankie Neal, all played in the National Football League. That's just some of the guys. That does not include the offensive linemen or the defensive linemen.
Yeah. Sorry about Franz getting frozen there a couple of times. I think there's problems with Cox up in Gainesville. But anyway, we'll persevere. I just want to get back to a point about talking about one thing on Kerwin. And since you were there to see it, and I want to go into the modern era. I want to do a quick shout out to our sponsors. I want to talk about the game and the coach and the situation, what we're dealing with here, whether Saturday night's game in Knoxville was a bit of a freak thing, or are they good enough to play with them, and where does this team go from here without a backup quarterback? All those things, you guys. But let's take it. First of all, let me tell you about TitanMRI.com. They're a company you should know about if you live in North Central Florida. They give you a terrific opportunity to have an MRI like you never had one before. First of all, they personalize it. If you'd like to come in during the week, after hours, they'll make an appointment for you. Anytime, weekends, whatever. They also want you to know that they keep in mind your discomfort with going to a place like that when you got to get in one of those cages and have an MRI. They do their very best to make you feel comfortable. They're aware of the fact that not everybody handles it as well. They don't want you to be claustrophobic, and they do that. And lastly, if you have an issue about your insurance, when you need our MRI, it's because you have to have it, and they will take cash your card, and they're very reasonable. So if you need an MRI, you should check out TitanMRI.com and go see them, and they will take care of your needs. Okay, guys, we know the subject of the hour is going to be, obviously, it's going to be how long does Billy last? I had a tease, as they call it, on the show before it started. Like, how long should you stay with your coach when he's losing? And is it incumbent upon everybody? And Franz, we consider ourselves a journalist fan in that regard. We try to separate the two, but are we all fans? All trying to get to the same place. It's not our job to coach the team or whatever, but it's getting about time to evaluate, because today USA Today has a story saying that they voted on the coach who was most overpaid, and it was Billy Napier. How long can this go on, guys?
Well, if he loses Saturday night, there's going to be enormous pressure for him to be gone on Monday, particularly with an open date. Ideally, if you're going to change coaches during this season, the open date week is the ideal time to do it, because you can get guys in and so forth like this. There's a complicating matter, though, and that is, if your coach gets fired during the season, you can opt out the rest of the season, and it's considered the same as a redshirt year. You can play 10 games. They fire the coach before the 12th game, and you get the equivalent of a redshirt year playing 10 games. That's how I understand it. Maybe wrong on there, but that's how it was explained to me. And it's, I don't like this opt-out thing. I've written about it, and I've said, what the way to deal with that is say, if you opt out during the season, you sit out a year next year, period. I believe that players should, I think they need to adopt a rule. You got 5 years. You can play all 5 years, or if you get hurt 4 and you only play 1, you still only get 5 years. There's nothing else. You get 5, but that would stop a lot of the transferring too. Particularly if you say, okay, if you don't have a 2.5 and you transfer, you sit out a year. And if guys only have 5 years and they're not going to get 6 or a red shirt or all this other stuff, trust me, guys would take advantage of it. But you got this situation hanging over, and I don't know, buddy. I don't know how that's going to affect what Florida does. I know the pressure is going to be enormous if he doesn't beat Kentucky. Fortunately for him, I believe Florida will beat Kentucky. Kentucky's offense is the worst in the SEC. They have a fine defense, but we've seen a lot of good defensive teams come to the Swamp, and the noise and the atmosphere and everything like that make it so difficult for them. I think Florida can win this game.
Yeah. All right, Rob. I'm getting a feeling more and more. I don't have any information. I'm just getting a feeling they're not going to do anything unless Billy just completely gets clobbered 3 games in a row. They're going to keep it just like it is, hold it together, have an interim by the end of the year, and tell the recruits, stay. We're going to get the coach come in and re-recruit them all. In my opinion, that's what I think will happen. I also heard a little bit of interesting information today from a great source. I don't know how this will play out or impact Napier's situation. I've been told that Billy's attorneys, who are deciding the Rashada case, or representing him, are quite concerned about it, and that they're not really comfortable where Billy is right now on this matter. I don't know what all that entails. I do know it's authentic. I do know their information is real. So I could see, guys, Franz, you would know a little bit of this. I could see at some point, if it got down to the fact where they wanted to cut the cord with Billy, and they had evidence to say that Billy was complicit in some way on Rashada, and that he would be exposed, them striking a deal with Napier to take less money, and for the buyout, and then take his money and get out of there, get out of Dodge, and close that lawsuit. That would be my idea, that Florida could leverage Billy that way. I don't know. Does it make sense, friends?
It makes perfect sense, buddy. I wrote about that about 3-4 weeks ago, saying that the Rashada case could do it, because if there are NCAA violations involved in there, would Florida do what Tennessee did? Tennessee, basically, nobody would have caught them for Jeremy Pruitt. They had this thing so carefully concealed. Only a few people knew about it, and a few of these people wanted to get rid of Jeremy Pruitt, so they threw him under the bus, and then all of a sudden the school goes, "Oh my God, what has been going on at our little old school could be a terrible thing." And Jeremy Pruitt got, I think, 114 years of show cause on that thing for all over $60,000 of spreading it around, which is basically, that's about 1/4 of what it cost Georgia to get Herschel Walker back in the day. But there is a way to do, they could do this. And one of the things they may say is, okay, Billy, you voluntarily step down and say, look, I've done the best I can, and I know this, and I'll voluntarily step down. Instead of paying him $26 million, they say, okay, we'll give you 10. And that's it. And now you got to remember something. It's going to cost them $50 million to get a new coach. Any way you look at it, buddy, it's going to cost them $50 million to get a new coach. So if you pay Billy 26, and you got to pay his staff and all the other people that are there, and I understand that's $14 million. That's what I understand.
They're 2-year contracts, yeah.
$40 million plus another 50 to hire a new coach.
Well, they got that new contract on TV, but it's going to take all of that and then some. So, all right. So, Rob, you talk to a lot of people around the league about these situations. You got one in Auburn, coaches not getting the job done. Who knows? Maybe at Ole Miss. We'll see what happens there. He's lost 2 games.
He got an extension, buddy. They extended him. 4 years at, I think, $11.25 million.
I don't think they'd fire him. I'm just saying they might suggest he go someplace else. But, Rob, my point is, how do you, from your perspective, you talk around the league, how do you see it playing out? What do you do? You're from an outsider looking in. How do you see Florida's situation playing out?
Lane Kiffin is 3-20 against teams that finish with 9 or more wins. Quit getting all giddy about this guy. I mean, I don't get it. Some interesting bit of trivia here. Florida, for the decade of the 50s, had Bob Woodruff as the coach for 10 years. The decade of the 60s, Ray Graves. Decade of the 70s, for the first 9 years, Doug Dickey. That if they hadn't have been derailed in 84, Florida football might be the most dominant program in the SEC. I mean, it's self-inflicted wounds. But if I'm looking for a coach, man, there's some. Watch this guy, Bryant Vincent, the coach at ULM. I had him on the show about 6 weeks ago. Louisiana Monroe, my friend John Hartwell hired him. He was the interim coach at UAB. He wins everywhere he goes. ULM was picked 134 out of 134 preseason. Right now they're 5-1. I think they're going to win the Sun Belt. And they've got
no
T-shirts.
way Florida will hire another guy from Louisiana, by the way.
I know that's the problem. I was going to say that's the problem. But this guy is a game changer. So where are you going to go get a coach? Lane Kiffin. Everybody gets all giddy about him. I think he's in the perfect.
He's known for his offensive genius. That's what they like about him. They want somebody.
How many big games? How many top 5 teams has he beaten as a head coach?
I don't know all the stats. I just think he's considered to be a real good offensive coach.
But I understand. But if I'm looking at dogs and horses, I'm looking at the pedigree. I'm going 3 generations deep, and I think Kiffin's a really good offensive coach. But I don't think he is the difference maker. Florida doesn't have to hire a coach like that. I think if I'm Florida, Franz, you brought it up last year with me. I don't know. Jed Fish did a pretty good job at Arizona. There's coaches like that. Matt Rule. I have been the biggest Matt Rule fan.
Matt Rule would be a guy I'd look at. Yeah, sure.
Since he took Baylor from 0-12 and got him in the Sugar Bowl 2 or 3 years later. But Franz just laid the numbers out there. You're talking $80 million to flip this thing around. Maybe you get a state of execution.
They don't do it, though. That's what you'd look at. If you don't do it, the program goes around, you're going to have a bigger problem.
I'll give you guys a name out there that I think is going to be available for a school like Florida, and he has a Florida tie, and it may shock and amaze you, but I've been told that if Florida were to approach him, he would take the chance.
Oh, Fish?
Ryan Day.
Yeah, that name's been kicked around a good bit the last couple of days.
He was Urban Meyer's offensive grad assistant here in the 2005 and 2006 seasons. He's been with the NFL. He knows the game. He would bring Mark Pantoni with him. He'd bring Ryan Stamper with him. He'd bring Charlie Strong with him. Trust me, you would have. I think, and you look at you look at how they recruit up there. I think Ryan Day understands. Ryan Day looks at the fact that how many national championships has the Big Ten won since 1990? Anybody?
2.5. 02, 14, and 23. That's 3.
Well, you got 97.
And 97.5. 3.5.
3.5. Yeah. How many has the SEC won in the same period of time? Like, it was what, 30 years and we've won 54 of them?
Yeah. Like 17.
Yeah.
Look at Rhett Lashley. Rhett Lashley's a guy that I like because I know one of his teammates. He had like 8 years with Gus at Auburn. Great recruiter. Outstanding developer of quarterbacks. Like a lot of guys that coach with Gus, he was thrown under the bus as shark bait. Keep your eyes on that guy, Ben. He's at SMU. SMU, they shook the cup 7 days. I was out in Dallas. I've got several people, friends of mine's kids at SMU. They raised $151 million in a 7-day fundraiser. And they came back and said, do y'all need any more? They said, oh, hold on. But Ben, you give us some names. You know what? I think Florida, if Franz is right, you better think about how much money you're spending. This is why colleges are reminding me of the federal government. They're good at pissing away other people's money.
It's going to be hard. It's hard to give names when it comes to Florida because of what it is. I mean, I get it that everybody's talking about Billy Napier and him being the most overpaid. How many coaches outside of Kirby and Dabo have won it all? It ain't going to be many. And that's the barometer for Florida. They want you to win it all. Most of these teams don't even know nothing about winning it all because they've never done it. So when they say this guy could do it, this guy could do what? No. Being the head coach of Florida is like being the head coach at LSU. You've seen so much legacy come behind you. They're trying to get back to that. Billy Napier right now, we get it. $7.3 million. But the thing about it is, whoever you bring in, you mentioned Ryan Day, you're going to have some hot shot offensive coordinator. Florida is a different gauntlet. Everybody's going crazy about Mario Cristobal right now. He got to keep it up. Because if he don't win the ACC, that would be the legacy of Miami since they've gone to the ACC. They've never won it since they moved over to the ACC. I'm talking about Big East Miami. The thing about Florida is it's just a different beast because we've seen Spurrier. We've seen Maya. So much so that we can't slide everything after that and in between. Mm-hmm. They don't even talk about Zook. They don't talk about McElwain. They don't talk about Muschamp. They ain't even talk about Dan Mullen. They're talking about what could have been. Florida is a different kind of and the thing about it is I'm going to keep saying this. There are certain coaches you cannot get them. Like, and I'm not saying you won't them. I think Florida can get anybody they want to get outside of certain coaches because Florida – now, Scott Strickland to me is what nobody's talking about. I don't know how good he is at, getting the people to, take him serious. Because they're seeing the fact that everybody thought Dan Mullen was a subpar coach who went to 3 New Year's Six bowls, right? And he had that bad fourth year, and you get rid of him. You get rid of him because he ain't like to recruit. I get it.
Well, there's also a show cause against him too.
Well, yeah, but the thing about this, buddy, it's like this. You got two kinds of expectations in college. You got national championship expectations, and you got everybody else, right? Yeah. Florida, no matter what, has national championship expectations. I ain't saying we're going to meet them, but that's what you want because you've seen it. What most of these, like I said, and I do agree with what Rob said about Lane Kiffin. Lane Kiffin is an offensive guru, right? Offensive guru. But when you talk about big games, it ain't much to go off of. And yes, he went 11-2. That's the greatest season in Ole Miss history. Did they go to Atlanta? No. Did they play for the SEC championship? No. And that's the thing. The same thing that everybody think that Billy Napier can't do. You bring the next coach in, and he can't do it. Then what? It's gonna cost a lot of money. One, because Florida gonna play a lot of money. I mean, if Billy Napier got 7.3, the next guy gonna want 10, 9 at least. I mean, Coach Stoops up there at Kentucky's getting paid $9 million. Now he's earned it. If you look at the expectations at Kentucky, but I just think that for Florida right now, you put yourself in a pickle because I just think that, Billy Napier is really showing everybody else how hard it is to win in Florida. Ask Hugh Freeze, going on right now at Auburn, how hard it is. It is extremely difficult because the expectation is, hey, man, we want to win it all. We don't want to win games. Because if Billy Napier won 9 games, you know what they're going to say? Can't win 10. If you win 10, can't win 11. That's the barometer. So I believe that Ryan Day would be a good candidate, but Ryan Day has never won a natty. He's won the Big 12 the first 2 years he was there. Since then, he can't beat Michigan, can't beat Oregon. So I don't know. And like I say, that's with Texas and Oklahoma and LSU and Georgia and all these teams, you ain't going to get no relief. So a good year in the SEC might mean you go to a bowl game. You won't even get to go to the SEC championship. You can go 11-2. So I don't know who we're going to get, but I do think we can get our pick of the litter. I've heard Coach Franklin. Listen, that head coach of Indiana, we better not get him. Now, he's great for TV now. He's great for TV.
And I love 63 years old. He's no spring chicken.
Listen, at the end of the day, Florida need to go out with an expectation to get who we want, not who says yes. You don't. Florida. Ain't no who said no. This is who we targeting. This is who we going after. And your number 1, number 2, and number 3 all got to be top tier. And but until that happens, DJ Lagway is going to be the greatest selling point you got. That kid, if you don't want to coach him, you don't like football, and you don't deserve to coach football. Because I think that kid's going to have a lot of people banging down Florida's door to want to coach him.
Yeah, all right, let me get this in here for the top. I think we've got Lauren out there. He's picturing. Are you there, Lauren?
Yeah, I'm here.
All right, you want to get a quick word in? You want to jump in for a minute?
Just talking about the head coach, I just think that I agree with pretty much what everybody said. I mean, it's going to be a lot of suitors for the job, and I agree. I was going to say what Ben was going to say. The biggest draw is obviously the brand, and then the next draw is getting to work with, somebody I think that's going to be an amazing talent at quarterback in DJ Lagway. And I think any coach that would come in would be able to put a system in place, should be able to put a system in place that he could be successful in. So, I said it Tuesday night on the show, buddy. I'm not sure they're going to get rid of Napier. People I talk to say it's already a done deal. But I just caution our listeners, I'm not sure, depending on how the season goes, that he's not here for the 2025 season.
All right, in the remaining time, we're going to give everybody, you got the money in the bank. You're going to hire a coach tonight. We're going to start with you, Lauren, go around the horn. Who are you going to hire? You got within reason, let's say you got $10, $12 million. Who are you going to hire?
10, 12 million. Give me James Franklin.
All right. Rob?
Give me Rhett Lashley.
Okay. Franz?
Give me Ryan Day or James Franklin. And right now, I would probably, as much as I would love that concept of Ryan Day and bringing in the people, here's the thing I will say. You put James Franklin, who is as articulate as it comes. You put him in the home of some mama out there who's raising 3 kids on her own, and he comes in there and talks about his own story, and says, "I'll make sure your boy leaves here with a college degree," because his record for graduation at Penn State is like second to none. And you put him in living rooms there, and you're going to see Florida recruit like nobody's ever recruited here, except maybe Urban Meyer.
I think you probably need about, let's see, what's 12 million times 5, 60 million for him. Again, anyway,
he has no a $2 million buyout.
Yeah, gotcha. Last word from Ben. Ben, you got your choice now. Get who you want.
I'll give James Franklin 1. If I can't get James Franklin, I think I'll give Dan Lanning a call.
Dan Lanning, okay. Well, clearly we don't have a real candidate in mind. I'm still sticking. You got to beat Lane Kiffin in my book to show me that you can beat him, and he's the guy, in my opinion. Now, we don't know what will happen. But anyway, as we sit here right now, it looks like we're going to have 6 more weeks of Billy Napier, and then they'll be looking for a new coach at the end of the year, I think. So, all right, guys.
Groundhog shadow
Day tomorrow that he comes out and gets a win. He sees his shadow, and we get 6 more weeks of Napier football.
That's what's It's the shadow.
I'm not sure he gets fired, guys. I'm telling you, I really don't believe that's etched in stone.
Well, we'll see. Franz was that way too until about last week, and then he said he's had enough. So we'll see. All right, guys. Good job, everybody. Appreciate it very much. Great show. Thanks, Rob, for filling in for Lauren. Lauren, I hope you get back safely. And Ben, good talking to you. And Francis, all the best to you, buddy. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
See y'all in the morning.
Thanks. Rob, if you're still there, who you got on tomorrow morning?
Got a great one lined up, man. We got the college football SEC roundtable. Frank Duffy, Doug Dean, former Tennessee All-SEC defensive lineman Dan Williams, first-round NFL draft pick. Ken Capps, Football Writers Association of America, out on the Texas-Georgia game. Ronnie Sanders, Auburn Undercover. Going to cover a lot of ground. And I just want to say to both of y'all, Franz hit it. It's the money you got to think about. But sometimes I've seen it in basketball, Franz. Remember Sonny Smith bottomed out? He was gone, and Auburn made it to the Sweet 16. The next year got to the Elite Eight. Sometimes that's what happens, but Florida, do it right. Do like they did with Nick Saban. They told Mal Moore, don't come back without him. Talking about Nick Saban. He stalked him for 3 days outside of his house. I mean, it's a great story. Florida deserves better. They can get better. So see what happens with Billy Napier. I'm with you. We hadn't fired a coach. We can't fire a coach, but I just seeing Florida and Auburn both spinning their wheels right now is tough, but it's always darkest before dawn. I've learned that over time.
All right, Rob, thanks very much.
You
And
bet.
Francis, have a good weekend, and I know you'll have fun mingling with your 84 buds, and all the best to you, friend. All right, you take care.
Thanks.
All right, folks. Let me just go out by saying how much I appreciate your support, and the people who follow this show. You've been great. My thanks to all of you. And we've got one more person to thank, our sponsors. They're such special people. We save them till last because we've known them a long time. They support this program. They support so many things in the Round Ocala area. That's the folks at Red Star Medical Research. My dear friends over there, Mary Brantley, wife of Scott, and of course, Joe Sorrentino. I want to say, if you're not aware of how this is done, it's been an education for me. It's important to get data on your health and get it in a place where people can utilize it and provide prescriptions and things where they need it the most. And they do this by having these clinical trials. These clinical trials are very important, and you can help bring it about. It's going to be the key to our future and our health. If you go and take part in these clinical trials, it'll be a group trial, and you'll be compensated for time and travel, and you'll help them identify some of the things that we needed to work on. And subsequently, the information will go off to a company, and they'll adapt what they're doing to help treat our ailments. This is one among the many things that Red Star does. They're also a great stakeholder in downtown Ocala, and they do a great job. Red Star Medical Research, seeking tomorrow's answers to the health questions of today. We're going to say good night to everybody, and God bless you. If you're a Yankee fan, you're not happy tonight. Your Bronx Bombers got beat by a walk-off home run. It's an unbelievable game. Tough night for Yankee fans. All right. We'll say thank you for listening and watching. We're back, well, not till Monday. A lot of great football this weekend, and folks.